The quantity, from the Keynesian perspective, the money printing only matters if it exceeds the level of output. And so you need the money supply to always grow to catch up with the economy from the Keynesian perspective. And so in their mind, the increasing the money supply is good. And from the Keynesian perspective, you just don't see this idea that since the money supply is increasing, and therefore the money is being devalued and people's livelihoods are being ruined because they can't store wealth for the future anymore. You don't see that anymore. And so therefore it's only a matter of time before people take that to its logical conclusion. Well, if it doesn't matter under these specific Keynesian context, then maybe it doesn't matter completely. The government just has the ability to print money. Everybody has to use the government's money. Nobody has a choice. Everybody has to pay taxes with it. So therefore, the government can print as much money as it wants. And in a sense, it works until it doesn't. Yeah. And then when it doesn't, these people are forgotten. Then we get a new cycle, a new currency, and then they keep going again. So the kernel of truth in it is what makes it so destructive, which, you should think of the fact that the government can print money without consequence as being an exactly a devastating critique for why the government should not be printing money, because clearly there's no free lunch. Clearly there is a cost. The cost is being paid by somebody. So if you can't see the cost, that means the cost is piling up. And that cost is piling up through the fact that eventually the currency blows up and eventually the currency price collapses. And I think particularly, I'll just add one more thing. When you talk to some of the MMTers, you'll notice this is an ideology that's a lot more popular in the US, I think, than in many other places, maybe even more than Europe. And maybe and definitely more than third world countries, because I think it doesn't work in the third world. Very quickly, you start printing money, the currency goes to zero.
They themselves acknowledge that their theory is not working in third world countries because the state or government has not enough capacity to raise taxes.
Exactly. So how does the US get the capacity? From running the global reserve currency. So effectively what they're saying, a lot of them like to think of themselves as being leftist and anti-imperialist, but what they're saying is the US government should continue to rob the entire planet through inflation in order to hand out money to Americans, basically. And even if they're poor Americans, by global standards, the poor Americans are essentially on the top 10% of humanity in terms of their income. So you're taking money from the entire planet, which is using the dollar, in order to finance this. And the fact that it hasn't collapsed is because the whole world is very big compared to the US. So the US has an enormous amount of wealth that it can extract from the rest of the world to finance its crazy spending. So it's very sad that, the people that might think of themselves as being against the US invading Iraq, against the US running military bases all over the world and invading the world and being the world hegemon, well, that's only because of the dollar that you want to keep abusing. And if you take that away, your system doesn't work.